Chapter 3. The Quiet Between the Words. The next few days passed in a blur, though for Harry, they felt anything but ordinary. His mind kept drifting back to Louis, to their conversations, his smile, the way he made Harry feel so at ease. Louis had a way of turning the simplest moments into something special, and Harry found himself looking forward to their next encounter, hoping it wouldn't be long. It was a Saturday afternoon when Harry finally saw him again. The sun was dipping toward the horizon, casting a golden glow over the small town as Harry walked through the narrow streets. He wasn't in a hurry, just wandering, enjoying the quiet. As he passed by the cafe near the town square, Harry spotted a familiar figure sitting at one of the outdoor tables. Louis was there, a coffee cup in front of him, a notebook open on the table. He had that same relaxed posture, leaning back in his chair, his pen tapping lightly against the page as he stared off into the distance, deep in thought. Without thinking, Harry walked over. "Hey," he said softly, not wanting to startle him. Louis looked up, and for a brief moment, the sunlight caught his eyes in a way that made Harry's breath catch. Louis's face broke into a grin. "Hey, fancy seeing you here." Harry smiled and gestured to the chair opposite Louis. "Mind if I join?" "Not at all," Louis replied, his voice warm and inviting, as he pushed his notebook to the side. When Harry sat down, their knees brushed under the table, just a light, accidental touch, but it sent a strange warmth spreading through Harry's chest. He shifted slightly, trying to ignore the way his heart had just skipped a beat. They settled into an easy rhythm, talking about nothing in particular, as if they'd known each other for years. The conversation flowed effortlessly, but Harry found himself watching Louis, watching the way his lips curved when he smiled, the way his fingers absent-mindedly drummed on the table as he spoke. At one point, Louis reached across the table to grab his coffee cup, his fingers briefly brushing against Harry's. The touch was fleeting, but it was enough to make Harry's pulse race. He caught Louis's gaze for a split second, wondering if Louis felt it too. Louis didn't say anything, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, a soft, lingering look that made Harry's stomach do a little flip. As they spoke, Harry's eyes drifted to Louis's notebook, catching a glimpse of a few scribbled lines. The handwriting was neat yet hurried, like Louis had been deep in thought when he wrote them. Harry could only make out fragments, phrases that sounded almost lyrical, as though Louis had been crafting a poem or a song. "Do you write?" Harry asked, his curiosity piqued. Louis's expression flickered, just for a moment, before he shrugged, looking almost sheepish. "Sometimes. Just thoughts, really. Nothing serious." Harry smiled, not thinking much of it, though something about Louis's hesitation tugged at the back of his mind. There was more to it, he sensed, but he didn't push. Louis had a quiet mystery about him, one Harry was drawn to more and more each time they met. A week later, they found themselves at the river again. It had become a sort of unspoken tradition, meeting in the same spot under the oak tree, just talking. Sometimes they'd bring snacks, and sometimes they'd just sit in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. On this particular evening, the air was cooler, signaling the start of autumn. The leaves above them rustled softly in the breeze, and the sun was setting, casting a soft orange glow over the water. "I think I'm starting to like this town," Louis said suddenly, his voice quiet but sincere. Harry smiled, leaning back against the tree. "It grows on you," Louis chuckled, his gaze drifting out over the river. "It's the people, I think. Or maybe just one person." Harry's heart skipped a beat at the words, but he played it cool, not wanting to overthink things. He had grown to like Louis, a lot, actually, but he wasn't sure how Louis felt about him. Still, moments like this made him wonder if maybe, just maybe, Louis felt the same way. After a while, Louis shifted, glancing over at Harry. "Do you ever feel like you're exactly where you're meant to be?" Harry thought about it for a moment, the question hanging in the air between them. He wasn't sure if he'd ever felt that way before. Life in Northbridge had always felt small, like something was missing. But lately, with Louis around, things had started to feel different. "Sometimes," Harry answered honestly, meeting Louis's gaze. "Do you?" Louis didn't answer right away, but when he did, there was a softness to his voice that made Harry's chest tighten. "Yeah, lately, I do." The quiet that followed wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that felt natural, comfortable, like they didn't need words to fill the space between them. Harry's hand rested on the ground beside him, and at some point during the silence, Louis's fingers brushed against his. It was just a light, almost accidental touch, but it lingered. Neither of them moved, and Harry could feel his heart thudding in his chest, the moment stretching on just a little too long for it to be casual. Before Harry could say anything, Louis pulled his hand away, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. "I like this," Louis said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Being here, with you." Harry's stomach did another flip, and he swallowed hard, hoping Louis couldn't hear how loud his heart was pounding. "Me too." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the river. It felt like something had shifted between them, something quiet but unmistakable. But just as Harry was about to say something, Louis's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his face shifting into something more serious. He quickly silenced the phone and shoved it back into his pocket, looking away. "You okay?" Harry asked, noticing the change in Louis's demeanor. "Yeah," Louis said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Just something I'm trying to avoid right now." Harry didn't push, but his mind wandered. What could Louis be avoiding? As they parted ways for the night, Harry couldn't help but feel like there was something Louis wasn't telling him, something that kept tugging at the edges of their conversations, just out of reach.